Hello, everyone, and welcome to Redefine Family, a Spark Transformation podcast. I'm your host, Simona Spark, and our mission is to build a future where no one needs to come out anymore. Together, we can create a world where everyone has the right to love, to succeed, to have a family, and to live a full, happy life. Today we have Caroline and Lisa. Welcome, ladies.
Hello.
Hi.
Let's start with introduction. So I invite you both to please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you.
I'm Lisa. I'm 37. I'm a native of Colorado, and I currently work in the oil and gas industry. I do master data for a big midstream company all throughout the United States.
Well, welcome, Lisa.
Hi, I'm Caroline. I am 31 years old and I work in sales currently. And I am passionate about health and wellness and working out and running.
Living healthy. Thank you, Caroline.
Yeah, always.
Let's dive in. Coming out stories. Who want to go first?
We have two totally different coming out stories. Lisa's older than I am, so I'll let Lisa go first.
I'm 37 now. Officially came out, I guess that's when I told my mom when I was 21. I was different from the people around me, probably in high schoolish, but you know the stigmas back then, and you just scared, nervous, and whatnot. So 21 is when I was kind of given the push to just be like, all right, you got to start living who you really are.
Was it when you knew that you are gay, or was it when you were confident to be gay?
I think it was probably a little bit of both. 21 was actually the age when I had my very first experience with a woman, and then was super, super nervous to tell my mom. My mom was obviously the first person that I wanted to tell, and I showed up on her doorstep and I was crying and I was super upset, and she's just, tell me what's going on. And then I told her, and she's like, I've known since you were 5. I've just been waiting for you to tell me. So, and then it's been smooth sailing. Like, my brothers took it really well. All of my friends took it really well. I've never had any issues with any of my relatives. Any work situations have all been super cool with it. And I've never had me personally, I've never had any negative backlash when it came to me coming out and being out. Like, we can hold hands on the train or at a baseball game or something like that, and people don't even really look twice anymore.
So is it different now than then?
I think maybe when I first came out, it was a little bit more, oh, what's going on there? But now I think it's kind of, it's more acceptable in certain realms of people that they're in.
I think it's more acceptable in certain states here.
Yeah, you definitely, there's places that you don't want to go, and we kind of know that you're like, okay, well, if we go there, we need to kind of be like hands off. It limits where we can travel too. Like, some places that would be really cool to go see, it's like, well, if we go there and we're like open with who we are, it's like, well, we could, get the crap beat out of us or put in jail or whatever. It's your turn.
My
now.
turn.
Yeah.
I had a completely different experience. So growing up, I grew up in Kentucky. I dated men in high school, in college, was in love with them. In college, I experimented a little bit more like, oh, maybe I am more in love with the person versus labeling, man or woman. It's maybe it's both, or, kind of figuring it out. Then after college, moved away and lived in Chicago. Dated a few people, nothing really seriously, just men off and on. And then some of my coworkers were female, and I kind of hit it off with them, and it was just a different feeling and a different emotion. Okay, well, maybe this is really who I am, But I grew up in a Catholic family, so and again, that's what my parents knew. That's I dated all these men before, so I was a dance major in college, so I had friends that were gay. My roommate, my only male roommate, really, that I've ever lived with, he was gay. Like, my parents loved him. He was like a brother to me. Like, it wasn't a big deal. But then when it was their child, it was a little bit different.
Interesting.
So they didn't want to believe it. They cut me out of their life. I came out officially when I was 25. some of my friends and my coworkers had already known, but of course I didn't come out to my family. I didn't think that I wanted to stir the pot, then be upset if it wasn't for the right person. I don't know, I hadn't figured it out yet. So when 25, and that's when I met Lisa, it was like, okay, here's this amazing person in front of me. I want to spend my life with her. I don't even know her. It was supposed to be a weekend thing from our friend, but I was like, okay, I don't want to live this lie anymore. This is who I am. I want to come out. And my parents didn't accept it at all very well at all.
So sorry to hear that. What happened?
So I wrote him a letter. I thought that was the easiest way to come out in a safe place. Get my thoughts out, because I'm a very emotional person. I wear my heart on the sleeve. You will know what I'm feeling, and get a little dramatic too sometimes. So I was like, I didn't want to be crying and upset when I'm telling them how I feel. I wanted them to listen. So I thought the best way to do it was do it in a letter, and I was so nervous about it. They always kind of knew, like when I was dating someone or I really liked someone, I would say their name over and over again. And then I really did that with Lisa, and I just kept talking about Lisa, and they're like, who's Lisa? I was like, oh, she's my friend. Like, she's just my friend. She's my friend. We even went to San Francisco together, our first trip together, and it was just I'm going with my friend Lisa. Like, we told my parents that, but it wasn't like we didn't put any labels to it. So then I wrote him a letter, and I hadn't heard back I mailed it right before
almost like a month.
Almost a month. Just to kind of give you a little backstory too, my younger sister, who's 8 years younger than me, she had a girlfriend in high school, and my parents kind of flipped out with that, and they didn't want her to tell me about it. And I'm like, well, she's my sister. Why wouldn't she tell me about it? Like, we're close. Like,
you had to see the negativity of her coming out.
Yeah. So I kind of saw the negativity of them just rolling their eyes and saying, oh, this is not real. Like, whatever. It's not a real relationship. That's why I kind of held back too. I was like, I don't think I can be myself. I want to make sure it's worth it. It's going to change my whole parents' reality of what it was for their child. And I cared about that. I cared about what they thought. And I didn't want to do that unless it was with the right person, So I just wanted to figure it all out. And yeah, so after a month goes by, nothing. Like, they didn't say anything. And then finally I did get a letter from my dad. And he was just so heartbroken. He thought that I just didn't like men anymore. And I
took it very personal.
Took it personal. I'm daddy's girl, my sister's mommy's girl. He was so hurt that I didn't tell them. They were so hurt that I didn't tell them, and I kept this from them. They gave me opportunities to tell them, and I didn't. I'm like, I knew how you would react.
What about the rest of the family? How they react?
A lot of my family didn't know right away either. It wasn't until later, like when I'd see them in person, when I would tell like the extended family. Some of my cousins that I'm really close to, like they already knew, because like my cousin Jeffrey, who's like a brother to me, I already had poured my heart out crying over some other girl with him late at night over the phone. So he knew. My sister knew already. Like, it wasn't a big deal to her, but it was just such a big deal to them. And then my dad's mom's, my Nana. And it was just like, we don't know who you are anymore. We think the area you lived in Chicago did this to you, made you gay. Kind of like thinking about it now, it's like, oh my God, this is like comical. Like,
it's funny to listen to some of the things that people like come back with when you come out. They're like, well, it's because where you live, or it's because you have a friend that's trying to find something to make themselves feel better when it really has nothing to do with them.
Find an explanation for it.
And that's what it became with my parents too, is where did we go wrong? We gave you this amazing life, amazing childhood. So it just slowly but surely, we just kind of cut ties. I was like, at that point in time, I was making a lot of positive changes anyways. I was working at a chiropractor's office for the time being too. So I was kind of changing their reality with that. They said I wasn't the same person, but I'm like, our realities don't mesh anymore. My mom's on RN. My dad's was a pharmaceutical rep. So here I am coming up with the holistic, more natural ways, chiropractic and stuff like that, and changing my lifestyle. And they thought, oh, we just think you're better than us. And it just kind of like faded. And I was like, I'm really close to my parents, and it hurts me that I can't have that negativity. I was big into like negative things, hold you down, weigh you down. I was trying to be more positive. That's kind of the work life I had, less stress. Like, that's what I taught. Like, it was just, so it wasn't my lifestyle anymore. I didn't want the negativity. So we just kind of split paths for almost 2 whole years.
Wow, that must be so difficult.
Well, and on a side note, like her whole extended family, aunts, uncles, cousins, all that, absolutely was perfectly fine with it, other than grandma.
yeah, so we kind of just went on with our lives, and I ended up moving to Colorado. We did the long distance for a year and a half. Okay, this is who I want to spend my life with. You know, I'd be more happy in Colorado than she would be in Chicago. I was kind of over the stress of the city. So my parents thought I was moving away from them. So slowly adding back in there. And so when I moved out here, we moved in together, basically. Cheapest way to do it was to live together. So my parents had to find that out somehow. You know, they didn't come out to visit by any means, but my mom sent us a Ninja. Like,
yeah, so she started coming around.
She kind of started coming around, and Dad was still nowhere to be found. And meanwhile, all my cousins are getting married. So meanwhile, we're going back to Kentucky, like for my cousin Jeffrey, who's my brother. Like we went to his wedding.
As a couple?
A couple, yeah. So we did that, and it was kind of like awkward. My mom wanted to be in everything. She had to be like in the middle. Like she couldn't be close enough to us, but she would still like make snide comments and stuff like that. And then my dad was just like nowhere to be found. Like I wanted to introduce Lisa to my dad, and like he wanted nothing. He walked away. Like, yeah. So then so my mom was kind of coming around though, and then it wasn't until when we got engaged. And I was like, okay, well, I had to call my parents before we start telling everybody else. Like, I don't want them to find it out from somebody else.
Right.
So we told them, and my mom's comment, she was like, oh, I hoped it wouldn't have come to this.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
She kind of voiced her opinion, and then they kind of started fading away again. And then we invited them to the wedding, and they did not show up. My dad did not walk me down the aisle. So my cousin Jeffrey walked me down the aisle.
Yeah, my brothers walked me down the aisle. My mom's been married 3 times, so both my stepdads and my real dad were at our wedding. My mom was there, and they were super supportive, like with her. Like if there's anything that like she needed, like moral support, like my brothers were there for her. Like anybody was.
From the moment I met her mom, like we hit it off. We both like craft things and scrapbooking and stuff like that. So we have a lot in common. So her mom and I are becoming very close. Like I call her mom. So I appreciate that. And like her brothers at our wedding said, if your parents show up unexpectedly, like we got your back. Like we're your bodyguards, basically. But that's the thing too, is because my parents weren't going. My sister was studying abroad, so she was over in London at the time, and because of the backlash from my parents, she wasn't allowed to come to my wedding. So she did it via Skype. She was on via Skype, and then a lot of my close relatives, like my aunt and uncle, like Jeffrey's mom and dad, didn't come to our wedding because they knew what the backlash would be from her sister, my mom. So it's like a lot of my family didn't show up to the wedding. There was a few aunts and uncles that made the effort that are near and dear to my heart because of that. And my cousins, of course, Jeffrey was right there, and his sister Jennifer was one of my bridesmaids. And so, I mean, we had people by our side, but just nothing like what your typical wedding gets to be, you know. And I think that's a shame for anyone,
you know. Get the good ones that were like both sets of parents are totally on board and totally supportive and totally like down with it. And
such a shame. Family relationships, they could be so messy. It's a situation of picking sides. Let's say for a uncle, for example, he's in a situation where he has to decide if do I mess up my relationship with my brother or do I go and be there for my niece.
And that's what it became. And it was like that even after the wedding for a while. And it just was like picking side. And then you had some of my aunts and uncles that were like standing up for us, like going up and being like, hey,
having
enough is
conversations
enough.
With
like
your parents,
conversating, like talking about how, oh my gosh, we just spent, an hour talking to Lisa and Caroline over the phone. Like dad never really said Lisa's name. So I knew it meant a big deal when my dad started saying Lisa's name. So flash forward a little bit.
2 Thanksgivings ago
yeah.
is when they finally, like the wall just kind of like came down, and it was just.
For how long you guys been married now?
We've been married for 3, and we've been together for almost 6.
Okay, cool, great.
Mom, because she's an RN, she sees stories, she sees a lot of, she's kind of worked all over in the hospital, but she was working with more people, younger people, more drug addicts lately, cancer, and it's like, well, they don't have their family there. What kind of switched off in her brain? She's like, enough is enough. I don't want to miss out on your life. That's the thing is, we were like, if you can't be a part of our life in a positive way, then it's not worth it. They got blocked from my phone on my wedding day, so they didn't ruin it. And so it wasn't my mom and dad's. They were never, for a while. And then we moved into the house. We got married, and then it was a little bit after. Probably almost a year after we got married before they started.
Yeah, it was about, a little over a year.
And then my mom started coming around, and then she would start asking about, well, how is Lisa? okay, well, if you're asking her and you're saying her name, that's a good sign.
So the past 2 years have been pretty solid.
And then 2 years ago too, we were pregnant. Lisa was pregnant and wanted to, of course, to include them because they were being more positive. They were mom and dad. So we were incorporating them more in our lives. We weren't necessarily talking to them all the time, but so yeah, she was pregnant and we wanted to tell them. So we included them in it and we sent them stuff to surprise them and have them open it. And we did it on FaceTime and they asked, of course, who's pregnant, which one, and we said Lisa. But we unfortunately, we lost our baby, 13 weeks.
I'm so sorry.
So we had just told everybody, and we lost the baby, and so I think that's why they kind of stuck around too, is they saw what we've been through. My mom's been through that herself as well, between my sister and myself. So that kind of became a bond. We could kind of, we don't really talk about it with them, but they just started coming around more, and now we talk almost every week. We FaceTime them almost every other week at least.
They want to do a family vacation next year with us
in the same hotel, like in the same condo.
We'll do conjoining, but maybe not the same.
But they've just been night and day, completely different. Like they're mom and dad now again. They've come around, and we can go. They came out to visit us. They brought my sister. They moved her out to Kansas City, and then after she graduated from college, and then they came out here last summer. Not this summer, but last summer, and saw the house. And my mom, I remember hugging Lisa. What did my mom just like?
Take care of my girl.
Yeah, take care of my girl. Like you're doing, but she said
she said you're doing a good job, or you're something like that.
You've made a wonderful life for yourself, to both of us.
That's so nice.
And like night and day difference. So now, like we give them Christmas presents. Like my mom's decided she's gonna come out here for her birthday. Just my mom. So my mom come out here, and then. I worked it out to surprise her with having my sister come out too at the same weekend. So, but she wanted to spend time with just us in the house in Colorado. And they asked about Lisa. They include her. She got a new job in the time we've been together, and they've known her. So they ask about that. They include her in things. They're excited to talk to us. They love us both. They say that a lot. So it's just completely different. It's magical what a few years has done, and some time apart.
I'm really happy that they come around. It's so strange how people find easier to connect through difficult times. And I'm really sorry for your loss. I'm learning now through my work how challenging it is to create a family when you don't have your traditional male and female couple.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Right. But I will, the first time our kid said, "Oh, I hate you, Mom," that will be my breaking point. When I'll be like, no, you can't say that to us. You're not allowed to use that word in this house. That's a bad word because we did way too much to try to have you. So that's a whole other part of our story. And it's funny that you're like, I believe people are brought into your life at certain times for certain reasons.
For sure.
So I think, just having your background, and that's a whole other part of our story.
Which you are welcome to come back and share with us.
Because that's been a whole...
that's been 3 years.
Almost 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
We want to bring them up with unconditional love. Like, we're going to love you no matter what. If you decide to be straight against us, if you want to be straight instead of gay, we will still love you. But learn that too through this journey with my own parents of saying, okay, we're not going to do this.
Yes. As parents, we came out with these stories about our children. I imagined that my son will bring home a cute girlfriend. And now I needed a minute to replace that cute girlfriend with a cute boyfriend.
Right.
So I needed a minute to reset that in my brain. And I suppose every parent needs different time.
I think when my parents are maybe when they're about ready to go to heaven, I think that's maybe when my mom will be honest, and she might say, "I'm sorry for missing your wedding" or something like that. But it's just kind of not spoken about, And it's just kind of like, "Okay, well, you never said you're sorry, but we're still going to accept you." We slowly but surely let them back into our lives. It wasn't like this overnight thing either.
Right. So do they see things differently now? I mean, when you have such strong beliefs, might take a minute to make that shift.
Right. And that's what I think they're realizing too is, oh my gosh, we're just like any other couple.
Yeah.
We're just like in their mind they would be like a normal couple, which us a couple is two people that love each other. At the end of the day, love is what matters. But I think they finally were seeing that we were just doing normal things. We were going on vacations. They were.
It was so interesting from my perspective to like see that, because my dad's sister's gay, so he grew up with a gay sister, and my mom doesn't have any gay people on her side, but she just kind of like, just from talking with my aunt and just like being open and stuff, it was really weird coming from a family that was super supportive and super cool about everything to experience her coming out. And I was like, whew. It was almost like me coming out again, but in a different version of it. And I'm like, whew.
Right. I never thought about that.
I think it's almost a safe place sometimes to come out to your friends.
I would have definitely been nervous in high school to come out, but my high school didn't have any of that stuff. It was in the early 90s when it wasn't like, popular, or a lot of people weren't coming out and stuff like that. So, but I think it would have been difficult. It would have been completely different if I would have came out in high school. But my mom told me, she's like, I've known since you were little. She's like, I was actually shocked when I was in a relationship for like a year with a guy, and she's like, well, maybe I was wrong. And then when I finally came out to her, she's like, oh, okay, just joking, I was right. Her only biggest concern was like, she went to a couple PFLAGs meetings because she wanted to make sure that I didn't want to transgender. Not that would be a problem, but she was having a hard time wrapping her head around that part of it, me thinking that I wanted to be a boy now. And then so after conversations and stuff like that, it was just, she's like, oh, okay, you want to be a girl and be with girls. I get it. Okay, cool.
What did you know, Lisa? She is so girly. Like she has the shorter hair of the two of us, but she cross stitches. She likes to do girly. She dresses like a woman.
Mm-hmm. Isn't there like a stigma about how gay people dress?
Yeah.
Right. All right.
But yeah, there's a lot of stigmas out there. The short that I was going to start dressing like a boy. I'm like, no, I still wear dresses. Like, so it's funny then, because I knew that was in their mind too. It's just like, yeah, you know what? We're going to be two women. We're going to dance together. You might catch us kissing. We're not going to make out in front of everybody, but just like any other couple, we love each other. We're going to hold hands. We're both going to be sitting here in dresses and bras, this is who we are,
What you will say to, let's say, a 16 years old girl that just find out that she's gay and she doesn't necessarily have the courage to come out to her parents?
Ooh, 16. Revert me back to my 16-year-old self. In a way, I almost wish I would have came out earlier. Just because there was a lot of things that, I slept with guys because that's what my friends were doing, and that's what I thought was normal, and that's what, like going back, I think I missed out on a good chunk of who, like, I was, because I was just keeping that bottled up and keeping myself in the closet. Whereas if I would have just, been honest with myself and honest with my parents and family and friends and all that stuff, I think that it would have been not necessarily different, like richer, I guess. It just would have been nice to have those years completely true to myself. Right. And when you come down to it, like, I think your parents deep down inside just want you to be honest with them. They may take it bad, they may take it well, they'll come around or they won't. I mean, but it's your life that you have to live how you want to live it.
Right.
And then come to find out, like, there's a couple of friends on Facebook who are actually gay, who I went to high school with. So it would have been kind of like but they didn't come out either. So we didn't know until, later on in life. So.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Lisa. What about you, Caroline?
I say first, take the time for yourself. Take the time for yourself and really understand. It doesn't mean you have to have it all figured out. I think that's what I was too worried about, is I had to have it all figured out. It had to be this movie-like experience. Is going to be amazing. It's not going to be perfect. There's going to be emotions, and they're allowed to react. But what you can do is not react to their reaction. They're allowed to have that feeling. They're allowed to feel that. And even though that might be what you don't agree with, but they don't agree with what you're telling them. So it's okay. You need to get it out. You need to live your life. You need to be true to yourself.
As long as you keep open communication.
Right.
Dialogue seems to be really good in instances where you have two sides that are just like,
Butting
it's like, keep the dialogue open and then eventually they'll come together.
Right, and that's a very good point. Now, I do want to take in consideration where is the level of communication and dialogue until that point. Because if it's not existent, I could see how it's extra challenging for a child to come out to their parents. What do you think?
Right, and that's the thing. Growing up, we had very open conversation, and that's, I think, what made it a little bit hard too, though, because we were so open, but we never talked about being gay. We never talked about our sexuality. It was never talked about like that, We talked about sex, we talked about everything, open concept, everything was on the table, and we had great communication, but we never talked about the possibilities. So that's why I think it was like, okay, well, we haven't talked about this. I know it's not going to go over well. I saw you with my sister, but it's just not going to happen, But I'm glad that I did come out when I did, because I thought at that time it was worth it, because I had found someone that I wanted to spend my life with, and I didn't want to hide her from anybody either. I thought that was unfair to her to be in this relationship and I just call her my friend. That's not. But then when I did, even though the reaction wasn't the reaction that I wanted, it was their honest reaction. It was how they felt. And again, I can't control what they feel. I can only control how I act to that, right? So I wasn't going to feed into it. But I learned that like this huge just weight lifted off me. I was happier. I wasn't depressed. I wasn't hiding. I don't know, it was just, life was better. It was just, I was free. It was literally like something was off my shoulders, and I could be who I wanted to be. I could hold hands with Lisa walking down the street. So I would say to someone that was, 16 years old, I say, do this for yourself. Don't do it for anybody else, because you can't control their reactions. You can't control how they're going to feel about it. What matters is how you feel about it. So I'd go for it, because otherwise you're just going to be living with weight on your shoulders, and it's going to eat away at you. It's going to eat away at who you are deep down, that you're not being honest with other people, that who you are. You're not showing your true self, fake version of yourself.
That's wonderful.
Well, and it's still sad that, that gay, lesbian, they still have to come out. Like, it goes back to what, do straight people have to come out? Do you have to walk down the street and be like, oh, you're straight?
Right.
But I find it funny, and I've been out for a long time, so it's normal for me now to like not even think about coming out again. But it's just like, it's just so funny that we still have to come out. Like, we still have to make a big ordeal where we're just like, oh my God, we're not straight. Who cares?
Exactly our mission here, to create a world where no one needs to come out anymore.
Right.
Choose your partner, choose the way you want to create your family, and just be.
Yeah, if your family doesn't look like the neighbors, it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that yours is bad or different or wrong or anything like that. It's just how you choose to live your life. Like my cousin, she has always raised her kids to, some men marry men, some women marry women, some men marry women. Like, they're not different, they're not different, they're not different. They're a family, they're a family, they're a family. Everybody, they just have a different way of being a family. Like, to respect everybody for who they are and how they choose to live their lives.
Right. And we also could update a little bit the language, because we are saying that couple if we are referring to a man and a woman, but we are saying that gay couple if we are referring to two men or two women. So is that word gay necessary? Is it that distinction necessary?
Right.
No.
It's just like,
it's not hurting you physically for us to be a gay couple.
One of my straight close friends, he wrote something on Facebook the day of our wedding. It was kind of just, we went to a beautiful wedding with a beautiful couple, and they're going to spend the rest of their lives together. And guess what? Their marriage is not going to define my marriage. It's not going to define your marriage. It's not going to define anybody else's marriage. It's their marriage. It's their thing.
That's right. I love it.
Love is love. At the end of the day, love is love. And it doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter.
It should not matter. So let me ask you, when it's coming to LGBTQ community, it for me feels like a separation. Like, I am here, you are there, but yet we are doing all this work to belong in the same place. So what can we say instead of that label?
we just call them family. It's funny enough that we're talking about redefining what family is, but
that's usually like if we're out and about and we see like a gay couple and they've got a kid, like, oh, they're family. They're part of the gay community. No, they're just part of family.
When we got married, we had to ask all our vendors that we worked with if they were
LGBT
friendly,
And a lot of them put like on their websites or the things they'll put like we do or we will cater or we whatever to LGBTQ couples and stuff like that. So
Thank you. Thank you so much to both of you for sharing your stories. I think you're amazing.
Thank you.
And I'm really looking forward to have you back here and talk about how to create a family with 2 moms. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for tuning in to Redefine Family, a Spark Transformation podcast. Feel free to share your story, knowing that your story could change someone's life. We invite you to spread the love by sharing our message with others. And leave your comments at spark@redefinefamily.com. Until next time, remember that you are the spark in your life. Just shine bright.